Hello and welcome back to the Villa Filler podcast. I'm here as always with my good friend Dan Wiseman. Dan, we have a World Cup winner amongst our ranks for the first time ever. Emiliano Martinez, Dibu, EMI Martinez has won the World Cup. I don't even need to ask how you are, mate. How are
Look
you
at the
doing?
smile, mate. Look at the smile. Yeah, mate. I'm over the moon. What an afternoon. Just an incredible game. And yeah, to see Emmy, you realise that those are the stages that he's now ready for. Do you know what I mean? And I think Villa really owe him progression now to put him on at least the European stage. Do you know what I mean? On a regular basis, because when the lights are brightest and when it matters most, this man just comes through time and time again. And yeah, honestly, I just couldn't be prouder for him. Like the Copa America win, the win in the Finalissima, and now this, and to play such a crucial role in the run to all of them has just been amazing. So yeah, speak for every Villa fan, mate. When yeah, absolutely buzzing.
I can't believe it. And I know before when he's been away with Argentina, he's come back and played, and even on probably even less than 5 hours sleep at times as well. I really hope he's in between the sticks on Boxing Day, because you can just imagine 5:30 kickoff, packed at Villa Park against Liverpool, first game back after a month. You just know the atmosphere is going to be absolutely incredible. And as you say, Dibu thrives off that, mate. He absolutely does. And what I love about this guy, mate, when it matters most, as you say, he steps up. Copa America semi-finalist against Colombia, saves two penalties, absolute shithouse there. Steps up in the finalismo, as you say, mate. And this is two penalty shootouts now in this World Cup where Dibu has stepped up, saved two in the last shootout. Who was that against?
The
Oh my God, it
Netherlands.
slipped my mind. The Netherlands, there we go. What a game that was, by the way. That's definitely up there in terms of all timers in the World Cup, with that late Veghorst goal. That was incredible. And then he saves Kingsley Coman's penalty today, second penalty in the shootout. It almost felt a bit unfair. And Mbappe had two penalties in the game, and Emmy had a bit more practice than Hugo Lloris in this, didn't he? I mean, he
Yep.
got pretty close to the first Mbappe penalty. Obviously, got hands to it, but Mbappe is Mbappe. And listen, we don't need to sit here and sort of dissect Emmy's performance in that game, because all of the goals that were scored were phenomenal goals, especially the second goal. Absolutely nothing you could do about that. That is a truly world class goal from Kylian Mbappe. But I'm so giddy right now, mate. I am so giddy. And I think as the big save as well, mate, that one at the end, 2 minutes left to play, big French counter attack. Emmy spreads big. We've seen him make that save so many times for us in claret and blue, and he's doing it again on the biggest stage. And it's weird because you look at him and you think, like, he's a fairly normal guy. Like, he seems fairly chill, but like, he just goes absolutely bonkers, doesn't he, mate? He goes absolutely crazy. There is just a switch that flips.
Yeah, 100%. He is truly Argentine in that
Yeah,
regard. And Messi, they created this really interesting narrative, I felt, across the World Cup, where I think amongst themselves, really, more than anything, they built up a sort of us against them mentality, where they convinced themselves that everything was against them and it's Argentina against the world. And it was this general in Messi leading his comrades who were willing to put their bodies on the line and do everything to get that man to the ultimate glory. And I think it was totally manufactured, because I don't really think it's true, to be honest with you. I think Argentina have had the rub of the green on many occasions, but you can see when that sort of environment is created, that Emmy just thrives on that. And you're right to mention that one save. I think it's from Kolo Muani, maybe.
yeah.
And that for me is better than any of the saves in the penalty shootouts. That's the Netherlands or the final. That one-on-one save is what won them the World Cup, because without that, there is no penalty shootout, and he doesn't get to save, the penalties in the next sort of half an hour or so. That moment and that save was really big, because he's more than just a penalty shootout goalkeeper. He's not just a penalty specialist. We know from watching him for so many years now down at Villa Park, that he's so much more than just someone that can get in players' heads and stop them from scoring penalties. He's bailed us out on countless occasions, and to watch him do that, um, in that moment was just incredible. And yeah, I mean, for Cuts, it's got to be so emotional. I saw his tweet sort of after the game with a screenshot of that sort of massive starfish shape, and yeah, it must be a proud moment for him, mate. So yeah, just lovely scenes, mate.
And it's great as well, mate, at full time to see that Emmy he FaceTimed Cuts, and
Yeah.
we give Emmy all the credit in the world, and he rightfully deserves that. Neil Cutler, my God, one hell of a goalkeeping coach this guy is. He has taken somebody who was, he was left in the sticks at Arsenal, and ultimately in that little run of sort of 12 games that he had at the end of the lockdown, the initial lockdown season, Project Restart, he proved that he was worthy of a chance. But I think for Dean Smith and for Neil Cutler to kind of take a punt and put as much belief in Emmy as we did, it's quite remarkable because no one else did, no one else would. Mikel Arteta didn't fancy him, he fancied Aaron Ramsdale, who he brought in the subsequent summer, and it's amazing to see that Emmy can sort of repay that faith that Dean and Neil specifically put in him on the biggest stage in the world. I don't think it's actually properly sunk in, mate, that Emmy Martinez has won the World Cup.
No, mate, and it won't. And obviously he'll come back to Villa Park, and undoubtedly at some point we'll get to see him walk out and parade his winners medal and his Golden Glove. I remember the only time I've ever seen that happen. It's really weird. I went to Real Madrid play Leganes a few years ago, and it was after Modric had won the Ballon d'Or, and he walked out onto the pitch and he had his Ballon d'Or with him. And it's just going to be so surreal to see a moment like that, but like from the fucking Trinity Road or whatever. Because like you're not used to these levels, man. But it's the same, and it's been lovely to see sort of his rise to stardom parallel with that of Alexis McAllister, who has
Amazing.
sort of risen to stardom. And it's amazing to see two Villa and Brighton players sort of on the world stage, and it's great that you pick out the sort of the hope and trust that we put in Emmy, because our scouting department hasn't always been the Villa fans' favourite over, shall we say, over the past few seasons. But Emmy, we've got absolutely right. I mean, to look at Emmy's track record, see all those loans, down in League Two to Oxford United, out to Reading, out to Wolves, out to Getafe, all these different clubs, and to be like, no, you know what, we're going to put 30 million on this guy. It's pretty remarkable, to be fair, pretty remarkable. So shout out to Emmy, shout out to everybody involved with that switch, because it's just been seamless. And it's almost sad, isn't it, that it took this long? Like he's into his 30s now, and obviously that's not a major concern for goalkeepers or anything like that. But you really just feel that like Emmy's now had his moment, and it's beautiful in that it has come, and he's had to go through all those trials and tribulations to finally get here. But there is something slightly upsetting in the fact that like clearly for so long there has been a top keeper in there, and it's taken this long for someone to get it out, and this is the rewards that we've reaped. If only we'd done this 5 years ago. But it'll be I really hope he's there on Boxing Day, and Emmy's that much of a psycho. He's that much of a nutcase. I wouldn't put it past him at all. He's done this before, as you say. Like he's rocked up after he's played like 48-hour periods. He's played for both Argentina and Villa. So I'm kind of confident that he will be there on Boxing Day. But if he's not, this man deserves a week's holiday.
Absolutely, he does. He needs to be on a beach somewhere, as much booze in this guy as possible. Let him unwind as much as he needs. One aspect that I wanted to bring up, which I kind of mentioned off air, mate, is the what I found, like, a World Cup. We all know it puts players on a map, right? And like, more interestingly, like sort of now in the modern day than ever, obviously, like, we can kind of gauge almost instantly how popular a guy is, how many more eyeballs have been put on these people after a World Cup, after dropping a clinic in a Champions League or doing whatever. So I thought I'd take a look at Social Blade and have a look at the follower increases. Oh my God, my camera's moved a little bit there. The follower increases from Emmy Martinez and Matty Cash in the last 30 days. Obviously, the World Cup started 34 days ago, so you're going to have to allow me the 4 days. But Emmy Martinez has gained an astonishing 2,156,730 followers on Instagram in the past 30 days. He's on around 6.5 million followers right now, which is absolutely
That's
crazy.
nuts.
And I again, to refer back to Social Blade, the biggest period of followers that he sort of amassed in a week is, if we go all the way back to 2021, which is obviously when the Copa America happened, from the 1st of July to the 7th of July, in a single week, this guy gained nearly 1.1 million followers.
That's nuts.
It's remarkable how these tournaments put these guys on a map. It's absolutely crazy. And even Matty Cash, obviously, we even saw Cash as Santa Cash in a Polish advert on TV. That's absolutely mental how they've taken to him. It's crazy. But taking a look at Matty Cash's Instagram as well, in the past 30 days, he's gained nearly 385,000 Instagram followers. That's crazy. That's absolutely mental. It's the power of the World Cup. It's the power of Poland, the power of Argentina. You guys who are Polish and Argentinian who've been checking out the shorts recently, we appreciate you. We know you're there. We hope you're going to stick with us, because these boys, they're in your hearts, they're in our hearts. That's one thing we've got in common. I found that absolutely crazy. And obviously, some may say it's trivial, it's Instagram, it's this, it's that. All we see now is Matty Cash wearing his bloody Under Armour stuff and posting that he's an Under Armour athlete. Fair play to Under Armour, though. They're going to get their money's worth out of him now. It's just absolutely mental. And that takes me on to the next point, mate, just to kind of talk about the World Cup in a broader way. I think we may have mentioned it when we spoke probably like a week or so ago, but Matty Cash, the World Cup this guy has had, firstly, absolutely phenomenal. The experience that he's had going and working with pros like Robert Lewandowski, Peter Zielinski, Wojciech Szczesny, just to name a few off the top of my head, absolutely world class. And to do as well as he did, and to kind of become a bit more and establish himself more as a household name, absolutely fantastic. But we need to talk about this man's shirt collection, Dan.
Yeah, 100%.
It's taken the internet by storm.
It really has. It really has, and rightly so. Rightly so. He's done bits.
And to walk away, first of all, from playing Argentina in the group stages, which is a game that we thought would be very hard, mate, with a Lionel Messi shirt, is absolutely outrageous, isn't it? It's not match worn, but he's still. Emery went and got him a shirt. Again, what a guy Emery is, man. The photos are brilliant, aren't they, mate?
Yeah, it's beautiful, man. The Mbappe one, I mean, I was going to ask when you were talking about all of those rises in followers, mate. It's like, you sure that's not Soccer AM putting an absolute masterclass, didn't he? Didn't he on Soccer AM at the weekend? Yeah. And he was obviously talking about these incidents where he's gone and got these shirts, and says that sort of Mbappe, because obviously that was in the knockouts, and the Argentina game was in the groups, and so obviously France made light work of Poland. It was 3-1 in that game, obviously. And I think he was saying towards the end of the game, he says to Kylian Mbappe, he's like, look, at the end of the game, can I have your shirt? And Mbappe's like, yeah, sure. But, Mbappe goes off celebrating, and he's celebrating with the fans over in the corner, and then like everything like that. And like Matty was like, oh, I'm not going to go and ask him for the shirt now. Because part of me wishes that he has, because can you imagine how funny that would be? Like they're all celebrating with their fans over, and then Matty's like, excuse me, Kylian. Get your shirt, please. So yeah, he went off down the tunnel, and apparently Mbappe came and caught up with him and took it off and gave it to him and everything like that. So yeah, he's walked out with those two, which is amazing. But you're right in that I have to respect Matty so much for how he's thrown himself into that. And he's not just out there on a jolly, and it's not like, oh, I've got this, I'll go and play in this World Cup, have a good time. Like, he's really thrown himself into it. It clearly means a lot to him and his family. He spoke about the fact that he's had to have discussions with them and make sure that, they all understand that this is what he wants to do and do it for the right reasons. And he's trying very hard to learn Polish. I'm not sure it's going quite as well as he'd planned, looking at the state of some of those TV ads. But he's trying very hard, just to see him singing the national anthem and everything like that. Like, it's not easy to do that. And to go and get yourself in a World Cup camp with these boys, and is quite amazing. And it's almost become a really wholesome experience to watch, and for him, I'm sure, as well. And just to see him go out and do this and get these shirts and everything like that is great. And as you said, shout out Emmy, man, to come through that Messi shirt. That's just ridiculous.
It's a joke, man. It's a joke, but it's like overall, it's been a really positive World Cup. I feel like obviously, uh, Bednarek didn't really get any game time. Kind of came on once or twice as a sub. I think it's to be expected with the year he's had, sort of falling out of favour with Southampton and then coming to Villa. And I know he cited it as a fresh start, which he needed, but obviously he's not started nearly enough games as he'd have probably hoped, or maybe he was perhaps promised. We don't know that. And Leander as well to go out in the group stages, being played as a makeshift right wing back at times. Absolutely stinking. I don't know if you saw, mate. I saw a tweet today from a gentleman who works in Curry's in Wigan. You know Curry's, you know the appliance store. And
Yeah.
Roberto Martinez stopped by. He must still have
Oh,
his base
unreal.
in Wigan.
No way.
Um, Obviously, he's no longer the Belgian manager, but I
I was
saw that
wondering where you
earlier
were
and that
going with that.
cracked
I
me
was
up.
like, are we getting our analysis now from guys like working at Curry's? But that's
Absolutely,
really cool, actually.
I couldn't believe it. I was like, wow, like this guy. I mean, could his December have gone any worse? You know, kicked out of the World Cup in the group stages. Uh, well, he wasn't fired, walked away from his position as the Belgian manager, obviously because his contract was up, and then he ends up back in Wigan.
It's really, and I felt for Leander, man, because I actually felt like, especially in the first game he played, I thought he did okay. I thought he had a
Yeah,
good game. And then obviously he didn't play some of the others, and Belgium did really badly. And there was a part of me that was glad because I made some pretty bold predictions before the tournament, and most of them I got wrong. But that group
now you
with
nailed that, bro.
Morocco
We need to give
and
you credit
Belgium,
here.
I got that right. I mean, don't give me too much praise because I also backed Qatar. I thought Qatar were going to get out of the group as well. But we'll gloss over that because, yeah, I to be
BBC
fair,
made you say that.
yeah, yes. Well, I was just like, I was like, you know what? I was like, I looked into them a little bit, and I saw that most of them been coached by Javier El Sad, and they'd broken up like 2 months. I thought, like 2 months before the tournament, and they've been playing friendlies and training, and I was like, you know what? Like, I can see them. It's not the hardest group. I was like, they could get out of it, but no. I mean, I never picked Morocco to get to like the semi-finals and the third place playoff. I thought they'd get out of the group maybe. So I can't really take too much praise for that. But yeah, sorry, Leander. I didn't rate your team's hopes going into the tournament. But the good thing is that he's not in that generation of Belgian players that have now fallen off and won't be there at the next World Cup. I think Leander's still got enough time in the tank that he can play, at least the next two major tournaments. So hopefully there's better times to come for him.
Yeah, man. I mean, he came up probably. I think he's a few years older than Yuri Tillemans, right? I think Leander's about
Yeah.
27 and Tillemans is about 25. But there was a sort of a wave of talent coming through at Anderlecht. God, it must be. Well, given the fact he's 27, it must have been about 10 years ago now, which is feels like it's aging me. But he was a part of that, weren't he? And
Yeah.
I always remember hearing a lot of good things about Leander Dendoncker, and I mean, I don't think it ever truly happened for him. I mean, he got a move to the Premier League, and obviously now he's with us. Um, and he is a player that I do like, if I'm being honest. I think there is something there, but I just don't think it's happened for him yet. So hopefully that can happen for him. Um,
Yep.
I think it'd be rude not to talk about the Villarreal friendly, mate, because that's obviously a game that he didn't really feature in too much. Um, did you go? Were you there?
I didn't go.
No,
Didn't
it's
go,
probably just as well, mate. It's probably just as well.
unfortunately.
I thought it was a really good first half. There was some, I like the Kamara and Louise partnership as a double pivot. I mean, it's something that we've been screaming for months, and I'm not going to sit here and take credit for that because everybody has, but we've been pretty vocal on that front. A bit worrying how they dipped off, but it's only a friendly. Nice to see Pepe Reina back in between the sticks at Villa Park as well. I didn't realize how much goodwill that there was for this man because if I'm being completely honest, mate, the last time I saw him in person was
Yeah.
Leicester away, and I wanted to get on the pitch and fucking murder him. He was awful. He genuinely
It's
made Harvey Barnes look like Messi that night.
it's really weird in that I think the sentiment was pretty anti Pepe Reina, but time is a healer. And
I guess.
it's good to see him like retire and everything like that. And like, he's one of those guys in the football world that's got a good reputation. And I think it was I watched the game and I didn't think it was perhaps all doom and gloom. For like I thought we played quite well in parts. It was really interesting to see. Um, unanimously people recognizing the real need for a striker now. Because,
Mm.
it's like that's clearly the weakness in the team, and it wasn't the best game for Ollie or anything like that. I thought we put together some good movements in the first half. I thought we were unlucky. Obviously, we hit the post, and I think, it's really weird in that, like, in the summer we didn't particularly play well, but we got the results under Gerrard, and things didn't go very well. So maybe this time, given that we've played well, we haven't got the results. Maybe things are going to go better under Emery, because like the sort of it feels like a preseason, doesn't it? With
Yeah,
the
it
with the
does.
games out in Dubai and
Yeah.
everything like that, with the draw against Chelsea and everything like that. That injury to Armando Broja, though, that's really
Awful.
tough. And yeah, I really like him, so I hope he gets better soon. But that was a good result, and yeah, it's one where it's got. I'm sure Unai would like to have won that game, and I'd love to know if that was like at all part of, not like like there was ever mentioned in the, because it can't be a coincidence, right? Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, whether that was a part of, like, mentioned in the negotiations or anything like that. But Villarreal put out a really good team, and it was great. I'm sure it must have been like even better in person. But to see some of these guys play at Villa Park that we'll probably never get to see play there again. But
Apart from the ones
yeah,
we're going to buy.
yes, of course. Like, typical, mate.
All of
I
them.
was sat here a month ago on the podcast saying that Nicholas Jackson is not ready for the Premier League and we shouldn't touch him. Rocks up to Villa Park and gets an assist. So that proves
Yeah.
you're wasting your time, guys. I don't know what I'm talking about.
Unsubscribe, guys. We don't know anything. Yeah, I like it's, mate. I know you know how much I love it. You've been watching Last Chance U, right? Basketball. You've been watching
Yes.
the second season, and
Yep.
I watched that, and this the second season specifically, obviously, because that like just came out now. But I feel like the journey that Coach Mosley is going through, in terms of, he's got a whole new team, whole new bunch of players. He's trying to figure out what they're about. It's kind of put into perspective like how big of a task this actually is, because I think we do genuinely sit here and, as football fans, think it's just as easy as turning up and winning games, right? And it's only when you kind of get that look sort of beyond the curtain at the sports team, and obviously we're talking about a completely different level here. This is junior college basketball, so you're going to have to stick with me here with this analogy, guys. But like, and like the Villarreal performance probably epitomizes it perfectly, mate, because things are going to get worse before they get better. That's how it's going to go. And as you said, mate, with Gerrard, wins his first 6 out of 8 games, and we're like, this is absolutely phenomenal. And then we fall off a cliff. Now, we've had a really good start to life under Unai Emery, which is brilliant, and long may that continue. But I think the teething problems, like the striking issue, and then I think as well, more than anything, just fatigue, just maybe from the time off. But I think it's going to be fairly common with the restart as well. We're going to have to be so patient, because like everything that like Unai Emery and everything he stands for is completely different to Steven Gerrard and what he stands for, which is completely different to Dean Smith and what he stands for, which is completely different to what Steve Bruce. And we can go on and on, but I think it's just sort of watching this second season of Last Chance and kind of seeing how difficult it actually is to kind of really get your message across to professional athletes or semi-professional, however you want to look at it in this example. It's going to be difficult, and I don't think we actually realize that, because especially when you watch, like, obviously we watched All or Nothing Arsenal. Everything seemed pretty rosy. Like, you don't really get that sort of perspective of Arteta or Arsenal will ever really struggle, because I guess that's the picture that they wanted to paint, although I'm sure they did. I think it's just the realness of Last Chance which really it gets me. I love Coach Mosley. I would die for that man. Like, he is the ultimate motivator. He makes me want to play basketball. I love him so much. But go on, mate. Sorry.
I think you make a very good point, mate. I think ultimately, like, you can look at Scaloni in this World Cup to sort of bring it full circle, and getting it so wrong in the Saudi Arabia game. And every time it was never perfect, but it got better and better and better and better. And then you finally get to the end of the road and you produce that formula. I mean, how many people after At half time in the Poland game, their second game in the group stage, like Argentina were going out of the World Cup. They were
Yeah.
drawing, and it was like they were looking a bit ropey, and it was like Argentina could well be going out here. And then all of a sudden they go and and these coaching is not easy. And for me, the one thing about the Emery appointment is like now we have to put 100% faith behind him and back him all the way. This is the best manager we've had in our lifetime. And for me, I'm not going to say he can't take any of the blame should things go wrong, but this is a man that if we're going to back anyone, it has to be this guy. I'm going to back him absolutely. But we've been given no reason to think otherwise. And whilst I can't say I'm that excited by the Carabao Cup action that is coming midweek, I'm actually quite glad we're not involved in that, because that's going to hit like lukewarm water, as I tweeted. But when we're all back at Villa Park on Box Day, it's going to be brilliant. And Unai deserves a sort of celebration of his own, because that Brighton win feels like about 6 years ago. But it was a brilliant win, and we still need to thank him for that. So I'm buzzing, mate, and it'd be good to get back on Preview G.
Absolutely, and that'll be coming in the coming days, guys. And there's plenty more transfer content that's going to happen as well. There's links all the time. I just hope you guys
can't believe it. We've not even got to January yet, mate.
Yeah, mate, it's mad, isn't it? It's mad. Like transfer rumor mill in full flow. Dan and I are so busy, so exhausted from the World Cup. So we'd like to thank you all for your patience and sticking with us and watching this podcast and viewing the shorts and everything. And with the frequency of the games, you'll be seeing a lot more of us anyway. So
100%.
Hopefully that's a good thing for you guys. But yeah, if you haven't already, before I do the plugs, make sure you watch Last Chance U. It's brilliant. Netflix, you're getting that one for free. It's gonna cost you next time. But yeah, if you didn't already know, if for whatever reason you live under a rock or you just don't get this far in the videos and the podcast, usually we are on TikTok and we are on Instagram. On Instagram, we are at VillaFillaPod, and on TikTok, it's at Heart of the Holte. If you go there and you follow that, you're going to see little social clip downs of this podcast. They're easy for you to consume, easy for you to digest. And as well as that, there's going to be like bits from games and all sorts. Like if Emmy's there on Boxing Day, you better know, Dan, you got all the angles of him coming on in the Trinity, mate, from where you're sat. So there's content, because a lot of you guys who watch this, we've got, I think it's Michael Heaney who lives in Italy. We've got so many people in America and South America, Brazil, Argentina. You guys are all real ones. Don't worry. We know who you are. We know you're there. So we're just trying to be out here and make this content as accessible as possible. So yeah, do that. I've made my camera go again. Like, comment, subscribe, and up the Villa.